Camp Pros. This is Oliver Gregan. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a summer camp professional.
And I'm Matt Hansberger. My pronouns are he, him. I'm an experiential educator and the executive producer of podcasting at Go Camp Pro. And you are listening to First Class Counselors.
This is a series for camp directors to give to their counselors as they hire and prepare them for the upcoming summer.
Because great camp directors know that camp counselors who are awesome will make kids come back to camp. So we're here to give counselors the skills that will make kids come back to camp.
So thanks for tuning in to First Class Counselors. Here we're going to cover one specific topic and cover the essentials as fast as we can.
The need to knows,
The can't go withouts,
the fundamentals,
the basics. So what are we talking about today? Well, we're here to celebrate 2020. I know it's such a weird thing to say after what is universally agreed upon to be the worst year in memory. Like so bad that even my grandfather, who lived through World War II, like gives it a tip of the hat. Like that was a bad year.
Wow.
You know? But with bad things, we can recognize goods. We can overcome difficult situations. We find people in a world that come together. And as first class counselors, we're going to ask that you join us in that focus on the positive. So with especially everything that went horrible this year, we want to brag about some of the things that Matt and I maybe did well, maybe how we went about making sure those things happened. And then we're going to focus on what we're going to do to get ready for 2021, whether that's personal, professional, or some kind of a wild card. We want to think about how we're setting our goals up for the future. So to kick off our show right now, Matt, can you give us a humble brag for yourself this year about maybe something personally that you were able to accomplish in all of this hellscape that we went through?
For sure. Last year, before I even knew there was a pandemic looming, I decided that I wanted to start doing an actual commitment to physical activity. My physical resolutions were I always abandoned them in whatever way. So I started with something simple: 30 push-ups and 30 crunches every day, and 3 sets, so just 10 at a time, and like 10 push-ups, 10 crunches, rest, 10, 10, rest, 10, 10, rest. That was it. Now I am super proud to announce that so we're recording this on the 30th. So I have 2 more days. I have to do them tonight, but I'm up to 100 push-ups and crunches every day now. So I've actually followed through on that resolution. And as long as I don't forget to do them tonight and tomorrow, then I'll have done it every day. And for me, that was just like breaking it down into something achievable. There's no way I could have I would have had to do like 100 sets of 1 to be able to do 100 at the start of the year. So breaking it down, making it easy, and then, just continuing. And I made it harder as I went because I wanted to change it, and then eventually got to 100. So that was something that I'm super proud of personally. How about you?
I definitely went a different way as far as healthy living. When COVID first struck, everybody was talking about what they were doing. And I was already somebody who really enjoyed cooking. So while everybody was putting up their sourdough breads, I wanted to try and think of something that I could do that would challenge me as a cook. So I decided I wanted to cook around the world. I think I've talked about this on a few of the podcasts so far. So since about March time, I've cooked dishes that are essentially signature dishes from 34 different countries at this point.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is really awesome. And it's more than just like 34 countries, but it's been more than that in dishes. So like I've, been to the UK a couple of times. I've done like fish and chips and meat pies and a bunch of like Cornish pasties, which are like super delicious, like kind of street food, or like sausage rolls, which you can get at like your local Greg's for any of those Brits who are listening in. But yeah, that was like really big for me. And it was really cool because I really haven't done a lot in like Asian cooking before. So it was really cool to kind of go and see some recipes from that country. I did not grow up ever really eating like Indian food, and I am now in love with Indian food.
Oh man, so good.
It's so good, and now I can kind of make it for myself. So having that now like in my cooking utility belt made me like a better cook, but also B, like let me kind of explore all the different places in the world and the kind of food that they eat. And if you do try this, know that you will sometimes be disappointed. Your tongue is not the same tongue as somebody from the other side of the world. So the first time you taste something that has like a lot of star anise in it and it tastes like a horrible piece of black licorice and you're like, this isn't really for me. That's
That's right.
fine. But then you might, get to go to an Asian cuisine and eat a bao bun, which is this like fluffy dough ball stuffed with like minced pork barbecue meat, and it is so good. It's just delicious. And really what stuck out for me was it was really trying to like kind of cook maybe a dish or two each week. It was picking out a different ingredient to kind of work with. So like finding out, that there's a specific ingredient that is really used in this one part of the world and saying, I want to try and use this in like 4 or 5 different ways. That was really helpful. And then kind of also learning some techniques that I never knew before. So like figuring out, what role does acid play when you're cooking? So when you're adding like lemon or lime or something, and I'm
Mhm.
talking a lot about food because I was super obsessed with it all year, but the real key points are it's like experimentation, right? That was really what kind of got me into it. It was like, what don't I know and what can I learn about? And it was really cool because every single time you tried something new, it was a new experience. And as you get older, uh, you start to have less firsts. So everything kind of just passes by. But the really cool thing about this year was every single time I was eating something, I got a new experience that I never had before. And that was what kept driving me forward, was to keep having those firsts. And I
Mm.
really enjoyed that. Plus, I'm also like a really methodical person. So I had a list and I was like challenging myself to grow that list and to try different countries and stuff. So if you want to see some of the things I cook, you can directly message me and I'll send you my list that I worked on and all the different dishes I cooked.
Did you make anything from Canada yet, Oliver?
Poutine in
Good.
a heartbeat,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the dish you got to
yeah,
make.
for sure. Yeah,
But super delicious.
good stuff.
But that was more of like when I lived in Canada, I loved eating poutine, and now I'm gonna make it myself. But
Yeah, yeah.
all right, Matt, though we've talked a lot about food, and now I'm super hungry. But if we move on, let's talk about something camp professionals really care about. That professionalism. This, we work in the camp world. It's something that's really important to us. What's something professionally that you really saw yourself accomplish this year? What's your humble brag?
Yeah, I was really grateful this summer to be a part of the pandemic response coordinators in the Slack group and working with Travis and the team of volunteers at Go Camp Pro, and starting to write a newsletter. And I really brushed up on my editorial chops. But I think the biggest thing that came out of that is that Go Camp Pro ran a virtual camp teaching program. So we taught people how to run virtual programs that might have not have thought it possible. And through that, I got the chance to present virtually to over 100 camp professionals in a webinar style, and that was probably one of the biggest audiences that I had ever spoken to. Um, and I also got to follow through that with the paddle program, which was a virtual, like a more intimate and long-term program rather than just like one session, which is what the life jacket one was. And the lesson that I took from that is that the reason why I got to do those things was because I surrounded myself with ambitious people like Travis and Ruby and the other awesome people at Go Camp Pro. And when you surround yourself with ambitious people, they have ambitious ideas and they can ask you to join the team of ambitious ideas. So, I had some skills to bring to the table, but I was also friends with Travis and Ruby, and they knew that I could do some things with programming because of this podcast and the other experiences they've seen me do. So if you volunteer and keep tabs and hang out with really smart, awesome, ambitious people, there'll be opportunities for you to kind of make into your own, or to leave your mark on the camp world. And that is because we're so small as a camp industry, it's really easy to do that. So if you're a counselor listening to this, find some awesome people and work with them and ask if you can help with things. And that can be as easy as starting with your camp director, just saying, hey, can I help with some social media stuff? Can I do some volunteering? And the more opportunities you take, it snowballs and more will come your way.
Yeah, I love your point about kind of having that peer group that is going to help you raise your level. And it's just because your parents remind you as a kid the entire time you're growing up, like you should hang out with so and so. There's they're such a good influence. Who knows what kind of parenting style that really is, whether it's good or bad. But like the point does hit home. Like you raise your bar, and I know like as a former athlete, that was always something. Like the better athletes you're around, the more you're going to push yourself, and
Yeah.
the better athlete you're going to become. So it works in the camp world too. And
Yeah.
um, And if you don't check out the newsletter that Go Camp Pro puts out, you're missing out on probably one of the most useful and greatest camp resources that you can get on a regular basis. So go and sign up for that newsletter if you are not already signed up for it.
Thanks,
Uh,
Oliver. Yeah, love it. Love writing the newsletter. The
yeah,
newsletter.
it's fantastic. And every single time I get it, I always message Matt something like, yo, the newsletter this week was ballin'. Uh, but okay, so for me professionally, was a real struggle as far as camp went this year because I lost my camp job because of COVID-19. I still had the podcast, which I could get involved in and keep working on. So like you can ask Matt, like I was on top of my show notes all the time because was something that I had the availability to do and could focus on. It was really important to me. But on the flip side, like I also was in a position where I needed to find employment. I was able to find employment. I'm now in a job that I'm happy with. I would still love to be in camp. And if there's any camp professionals out there, hi, my name's Oliver. But at the same note, like I'm very happy with the career that I have. I was telling Matt before the podcast, I have a fantastic new supervisor and great coworkers that I really enjoy working with every day. And they are definitely those people who are helping me raise that bar and giving me the autonomy to keep working forward. And thankfully, the position that I'm now in allows me to work on things that are like camp. So like my camp portfolio and programming skills and all of that will continue to grow while I'm in this position. And that is something that I'm really happy about. So for me, it was like going from this really, really low of like, oh, crud, I have nothing to, okay, cool. I'm back to like stability. And, sometimes people forget to celebrate just having what you need at a certain point when you're trying to get so much. So
Totally.
for all of you out there who are like, man, I'm really struggling right now, but maybe you do have like you finally got your feet back on the ground, know that you can celebrate this in 2020. Like that is a great success. And let's look to 2021 in a little bit about how we're going to take us from this position of standing and start walking,
Yeah, and Oliver, that's a good segue into my wild card here. Was that in 2020, I was super excited because I paid off my student loan. By the time I turned 30 years old, which was in November of this year, I had my student loan finally paid off. And the reason why that was so significant was because every time I paid that loan, every time I was like, oh my God, I have to spend another like $786.45. I'll never forget it. Every month. That was because I worked at camp. I had a job in the off season, but school's expensive. And I went to university for 5 years and then teachers college for another year. So 6 years of school and living expenses and all that stuff adds up. And when you work at camp, you don't make a ton of money, but I also live my life. Like I hung out, I bought stuff. Could I have managed my budget better? Absolutely. I could have. But do I regret working at camp? Not for a second. Because I worked at camp every year that I could until I graduated. And then I worked at camp full time for 4 years. So the money that I sacrificed doesn't even matter compared to all the happiness and skills and joy that came with it. And that made the $486.45 or whatever, $786.45. It made that completely worth it. So if you are out there thinking like, oh man, the pandemic, like maybe I got laid off from my job and I don't know if I can work for camp. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I highly suggest you work at camp because the opportunities definitely outweigh the little bit of debt that you will pay off eventually.
And for you Americans out there, just know that Matt paying off his student loans by 30 is actually an accomplishment. That's really good. If you're an American, you may have student loans forever. You may never get rid of them, but it's cool.
Yeah, I don't understand how it costs so much for Americans to go to school. Like out of state, are you kidding me? I would go to the school the closest to my house if it meant saving that amount of money. It's for a different podcast, but like, damn.
Yeah, another day when we may get a little more political on the podcast, we'll worry about then.
Yeah.
And I guess like my wild card humble brag from this year was I became a lifeguard again and a lifeguard instructor, which is nice to have. I was able to take COVID safe classes and I'm really happy about that. And I'm just focused on kind of doing some like personal self-improvement. The nice thing is I like have evenings where I don't need to worry about a lot of other programming or responsibilities like you normally do in camp. So, I'm trying to learn Spanish. Don't ask me to speak it. We're in chapter 2, maybe. I'm familiarizing myself with a lot of programs that I may have never used before, or like I kind of used, but like wasn't 100% on. So Now hit me up if you're working with like Canva or Adobe Photoshop or Premiere. Those are things that I'm really starting to get really used to using and comfortable with. And it's just nice to have more tools in the tool belt, right? At the end of the day, if you have the time to sharpen that kit or
Yep.
to go out and get something else, it's
Mhm.
hugely beneficial. And take the time. And for me, just because we're talking about how we get these goals, that was really kind of saying like, okay, um, if I I want to get to this point, or I want to have this ability, so how am I going to do that? So with something like the lifeguarding, I was like, all right, cool. If I sign up for this lifeguard class, I know I have to work out this much so I can get into good swimming shape, or I know I need to start swimming more often to be ready for that. For something like learning how to use Canva or learning how to use these Photoshop and other programming that I'm now getting more used to using, it was all right, cool. I'm gonna make a little project for myself, or I'm gonna like try and design something. If it was like learning Spanish, I was like, all right, well, we're gonna put in 3 hours a week to learning Spanish, right? And that means every single night that I come home, I have dinner, and then after dinner, I flop into Spanish, right? I connected that Spanish to another activity, which was dinner that I know I do every single night, and then I know that after dinner we go into Spanish. And because the two are connected, I'm taking a habitual activity that I already have, and it's connected to an activity that I'm trying to gain, and it carries it with it, right? So one activity pulls the other into it, which really helps get me into the mind space of like, all right, cool, finish dinner, book comes out, let's go.
You're jumping into like topic 3 here, Oliver. That's a goal setting advice if I'd ever heard of. Do you just want to carry on this flow of goal setting advices?
Well, I'll hold on for a second because we're gonna break for a little bit from all this goal setting and stuff, and we're gonna kind of look into some kind of riffing of some dumb ideas that are actually still kind of good ideas for us to do in 2021.
Okay.
So, Matt, what's something that like on the surface you'd be like, all right, that's kind of stupid, but deep down underneath you're going, oh, it's not a bad idea. Let's try it.
Yeah, this might not be dumb, but I think it's like really ambitious. And it's kind of like saying I'm going to do 100 push-ups like every day. If you would have told me that at the start, like that in 2018, you're like, hey Matt, every day in 2020 you're going to get to 100 push-ups. I'd be like, that's impossible. No thanks. But I broke it down and made it work. This is my ambitious goal for camp counselors for 2021 is I want you to consume at least one camp related piece of material at least every 2 days, if not every day. And that at minimum, that could be a post in the Summer Camp Professionals Facebook group. It could be an article from the ACA, an episode of our podcast or another camp related podcast, a book, like a chapter of a camp book, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I want you to try it every day. And I want you to see how that will reignite your passion for camp after maybe a long time without camp. So that's my challenge for you every day of 2021.
Another great piece of information, the Go Camp Pro newsletter, previously mentioned, fantastic. And here's the best part about it is it's going to give you articles and things like that that you can read. It has those materials for you to cover those future days right there and then. Sorry, it's a great
And
thing.
you can
And I'm giving
count
you
the
so many shout
newsletter.
outs.
You could count the newsletter too. And then there's
True.
6 articles within that. Yeah, that is a great place to start. We'll put the subscribe link in the show notes of this podcast.
Yeah. By the way, me saying this and talking about the newsletter is not a sponsorship thing. It's not an ad. It's literally just, it's right. It's the thing to do. It's what you should be looking into. Sorry if you think you're getting a bunch of ads, but it's true. Go and take a look. My dumb but kind of good idea is to go and look for sponsors for your camp. I know this is strange, and you probably want to talk to your camp director before just calling up like REI and saying, "Hey, yo, you want to sponsor my camp?"
Mhm.
Uh, you know, but maybe talk to your camp director and say, hey, is there something that we really need this year? And if you give a call and you say, hey, I work for this such and such a camp, we're in need of tents this year, would it be possible for you to sponsor our tents? And then who knows, they might say yes, and you might be able to get some equipment. On the other side, if you're really, maybe that's not the thing for you, cold calling giant companies or sending out emails to multi-million-dollar businesses, just buy a pack of white t-shirts for fun, and as the days go by, decorate them to be like athletic jerseys for camp games. So like Make your like Team Gaga white t-shirts, right? Because like a pack of white t-shirts at Walmart or whatever is like $10 to $15, and some markers. And the next thing you know is when you come to summer for summer 2021, you can gift your best friends and fellow camp staffers some like Team Gaga USA or Canada, and then you can hit up the Gaga pit and just be amazing at it. Or it could be kickball, it can be wiffle ball, it could be volleyball, it could be a swim team, whatever you want. Just design the t-shirt and have it could be a made-up game that's never been played at camp before, and then because you wear the shirt, all of a sudden this game that never existed comes into fruition. It's incredible. You never know. So buy a pack of white t-shirts, make up some fake stuff, label them, make them look like jerseys, and then walk up into camp with your squad and you'll look sweet. So that's my dumb camp idea that just might kind of work.
I love it.
All right. But we're going into summer 2021. We're hoping that every camp's going to run, and we have some goals to look forward to. So we're going to do the same categories, personal, professional, and wildcard again. Matt, do you want to kick us off and tell us maybe what your personal goal is going into summer 2021?
Yes, certainly I will. I want to, my personal goal is to keep building on the success of the push-ups. I think I'm going to give push-ups a break and do a more like robust cardio program that'll still involve some push-ups. And I also want to get to the doctor more. I want to, I have like my wrist kind of hurts from doing push-ups, or like my shoulders are clicking weird. And I'm always like, I'll go to the doctor later. But my new job has given me actually a pretty good health plan, so I can go, and I just need to make the time to do it. So that's my personal goal. What about you?
So my personal goal is obviously in eating all this international food. It may not have been great for personal health, stress, and all that kind of good stuff as well. So I, for the last about 3 months, have been on a personal fitness goal. So if you watch our podcast on YouTube, you might be able to see my face get a little bit skinnier every single episode. I think I've lost about a little bit over 15 pounds in the last 3 months, and I've put some muscle mass on, which is kind of nice. So I've been kind of going to the swim or gym, and then I'm planning a Tough Mudder in May down in Philadelphia. So if everything goes well and everything opens back up and we're all socially distanced and you want to come and meet a fellow camp pro and you also have a similar physical goal, come meet me in Philly and we can do the Tough Mudder together. My start time is 10 o'clock. We'll see you there.
That's awesome. I love it.
Matt, do you have a professional goal that you're working towards?
Yeah, I think mine's a little more general here, but I'm looking for my next career move. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue teaching at this job that I'm at. I'm not sure if my job will be there after the pandemic. It might be, not sure. Or if I want to choose to go back, or there's some travel opportunities that might come up, or I might want to lean into working with Go Camp Pro more full time and helping Travis move the business forward with some of our big ambitious goals. So I think by the end of 2021, I'd kind of like to have that next path a little bit clear. Just obviously with everyone's path right now with the pandemic, it's a little murky, and that's okay. I'm leaning into it and I'm okay with that uncertainty, but I would like a little more certainty, and for me to feel a little more content with the direction at the end of 2021. That's my goal.
All right. Not a half bad goal to have, everyone's trying to figure out which way we're going.
Yeah.
For me, I still really want a career in camp. So I'm working on kind of a camp portfolio that I can, have ready for if I'm applying for a job or if someone's asking me kind of like what I can do as a camp professional. So I'm really taking a lot of the programs and things that I've done as a camp professional and kind of putting them all together into kind of not like one formal document, but as something that I can use to present myself. If you are going to hire somebody who's going to be working in media, you typically want to see some photos that they've taken or videos that they've done. If you're hiring somebody who maybe has worked in business, you might want to know like where their success is, what their numbers are. So as somebody who works in camp, I only think it's right that maybe I develop a portfolio of maybe some of the programs I've done, some marketing campaigns, fundraising efforts, maybe some operating procedures that I've changed that I think led towards success in my camp. So those are some of the things that I'm kind of putting together to kind of make myself more professional in any way that I can. So that's kind of what I've been doing
Nice.
as like a little side project, and kind of want to get it together, and hopefully I'll use it to maybe find a big old camp job for me.
Awesome. Cool. So my wild card goal is I'm looking to just decrease my screen time. I've been a little bit tied to my phone lately. So I deleted Instagram already, and I don't plan on going back unless I have like something specific to post. And then like if it's for Go Camp Pro stuff or alumni stuff that I'm doing for my camp, I will download the app, post it, and then re-delete it. Just because I notice, you click that discover link and then like an hour goes by and you're like, what just happened? So I'm going to try and decrease that and focus on, reading more. So less wasting time on screens. So even if it's reading articles on my phone, maybe I'll try to read a book or grab a newspaper or a magazine instead. That's my wild card goal.
Yeah, man. On Instagram, they put that Reels button right in the center now, and you just can watch videos all day.
And that was the moment where I was like, okay, they're just like before, Instagram was always like, oh, we're here to share pictures, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, nope, we're here to intentionally waste your time and keep you in this app forever. And I was like, Facebook, I'm done with you. I'm sick of it. So we're not looking for sponsors for Facebook on this podcast. So I can trash them all I want.
Yeah, so my wild card that I'm really looking towards is I want to speak Spanish. I want to be bilingual so bad, so bad. I took language when I was in middle school. That was, I think, the last time I took Spanish. I took Latin for high school, and that kind of takes you off the beaten path real quick. But yeah, I think it's something that I've always wanted to have in my life. I definitely have a familiarity with the language, but I want to hold a conversation. I want to talk to somebody. I want to be able to travel maybe to a Spanish speaking language, maybe in 2022, and be able to hold a conversation with somebody, or at least, ask for directions and know what they told me back. I think it's such an amazing skill to have. And in North America, it is definitely a challenge. We don't have as many languages so closely intertwined. So for me, it's going to be personally going out there and doing it. Some things that I've been thinking about as far as to become a better Spanish speaker is right now I'm doing a lot of self-teaching. I have an app that helps me out, but I think I might invest in like a tutor, or I don't know, maybe find a job at a like a Mexican restaurant so I can learn to speak Spanish with some of the Spanish speaking staff members there. So who knows? But it's so hard as an adult to learn a language. So if you're out there as an adult trying to learn a language, power to you. I know the struggle. Go for it.
Commit to it. Yeah, right. The reason you learn in school is because you're doing it every day. So you got to do it at least a bit every day. Yeah.
All right. So Matt, we've talked a lot about our goals from this past year, where we're going to go into the future, maybe some dumb things that we've been thinking about to move forward. But like if someone's out there and they want to solidify this themselves really quickly, what's like just a couple pieces of goal setting advice that you would give to them?
Yeah, so I think that the SMART goal formula is good. I think the better formula, one that works for me, is a SMART goal. And for those of you who couldn't see my face, I'm making a F sound at the end. SMART. So if you don't know what a SMART goal is, it's a framework for setting goals to make sure that it will get done, that it's a good, solid goal. So it's an acronym. S stands for specific. So are you trying to accomplish something specific? M, is it measurable? How will you know that it is done? Achievable, is it within your power to do this? Do you have the time, the money, the ambition? Do you have the things you need to achieve it? Is it realistic? Is it realistic for you? And the way I look at that is, why are you doing it? What's the point? What does it serve? And is that realistic to where you are in life and what you need, and how it will help you be a better person, or whatever. And then T stands for timeline. When will you have it done by? Or what are the time markers along the way that will help you get that goal done, or check into your progress? And then the F that I add is flexible. And what I don't like about the way some people think about goals is that they're so rigid, and then as soon as you don't accomplish that goal, then you jump off the bandwagon. So if I said, like, I'm never going on Instagram again in 2021, and then I might like fall off the wagon in that way, download Instagram, and for a week I might be into it. But if I don't catch myself and I'm like, oh crap, okay, it's flexible, I'm just not going to use it anymore. You can be a little more flexible in it as long as you're remaining true to the ethos of it, to the point of the goal. So my goal isn't necessarily to not be on Instagram, it's to reduce my screen time. So if that is staying front of mind, then how can I get that goal done? And I know that some people might think, hey, Matt, that's a cop out because you're not actually accomplishing your goal. Well, what is the option? Is it a cop out to be flexible, or would you rather just give up on your goal? If those are the two options, I'm going to be flexible 100% of the time because I don't just want to give up on something that I believe in. So
Yeah,
that's my soapbox for why goals should be flexible.
but it's so important to be flexible about something too, because if you're setting a goal, you're trying to change a behavior, right? Like at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you're doing something that hasn't been normal for you. It's not part of your routine, and you're attempting to take something that you're super comfortable with and adjust it, right?
Mhm.
And that's hard. And when you set a goal, you may not know how hard that's going to be.
Mhm.
So are you just gonna, yeah, you can't just give up because all of a sudden you just realize, oh, I set a goal that was too hard for myself.
Mhm.
No, like, set the goal for yourself, start working on it, and then have a point where you reevaluate and say, hey, this is where I'm actually at, right? Am I ahead of the game, or maybe am I a bit behind what I thought I was going to be? And that's fine, because
Yeah.
you are changing a behavior. To be honest, sometimes when I talk about goal setting, I don't talk about it as what's the end product that I want to have. Like for example, I want to be physically fit. That's great. I know I want to lose so much weight, but at
Mhm.
the end of the day, I would rather have myself change the practice of what I do every day, see myself eating healthier, see myself exercising regularly. And then, you know what? If my pace of losing weight to get to that 30 pounds isn't in the 3 months that I mandated for myself,
Mhm.
okay. But
Yeah,
am I
you're not training for a fight. You don't need to like make weight by a certain time, right?
exactly, right? Like your goal is just to get to a healthier point in your life.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's really important. So like that flexibility, Matt, like yeah,
Yeah.
snaps to that.
Thanks, buddy.
Um, yeah, my quick point of advice that I just want to make sure that you have is look at goals that you've completed in the past, right? Like,
Mm.
and don't always just make sure that they're big goals. Like, you studied for a test, maybe you did try to get physically fit for something, you wanted to read more books, or you had to finish a project that was set for you. Think about those things that you've done in the past and you've been successful with, and think about what made you successful in them, and then repeat that, that ingredient that you had for whatever your goal is going to be, right? I sometimes get really perplexed when somebody says that they're trying to learn a new skill or something, and they don't use the practical techniques that they learned when they were in school, like flashcards actually help you study, or
Mhm.
writing out a sentence and then taking out key words and then rereading it actually helps your brain fill in the blanks for later. Like those
Right.
are study techniques. Taking power notes, all of those things. Like if you're reading a book, writing in between the margins,
Mhm.
folding pieces off at the end of a chapter, writing down a summary of what you just read about. These are all techniques that people used when they were in school so they could learn information better. And if you did those things and it helped you once upon a time, why are you stopping them when you become an adult? You're
Mhm.
literally taking the practices and the things that worked for you and throwing them out the window just because it's been 5 years since you had to take a test, or 10 years since you had to take a test. So
Yeah.
think about those things that worked for you and go into them. And then something else that I'll put out there for you guys, and I'll send it to Matt after, but with staff, I do typically a goal setting training, and it typically has to do with SMART, and some of it's based off it. There's a lot more tips and tricks in it, and I will throw it in the show notes for you, but it is so beneficial, and it has so many good tips on how to get to your goals. And I think Matt and I have done kind of this episode every year. We talk about goal setting and we talk about some of these key points, but maybe we can do an episode just on, how to properly set goals and really get to it, instead of just giving you a little bit of advice here and there. But that
Mhm.
document is something that I go back to when I try to set my goals, and I think it could be something really great for you.
Awesome.
All right. With that being said, that is our show for the day, except for one great thing that you need to know about, and that is your E.G.E.L, your ever growing and ever learning. It is a trick, a tip, a game, or a song for counselors to use to get better every single day. And Matt, what are you going to tell us about today?
My big thing, ukulele. Learn how to play the ukulele. It's a great gateway into playing the guitar, which is one of my most used camp skills is playing the guitar. And you can use all these goal setting techniques to make that happen. So grab a ukulele. They're super cheap. Don't get one on Amazon. Go support your local music store and buy one there, even if it's curbside pickup. And start learning. The first chord, you literally, here's my E.G.E.L to give you the one little practical thing. Take your ring finger, put it on the 3rd fret of the bottom string and strum. That is a C chord. Bada boom, bada bang, you learned a chord. Second finger on the 2nd fret of the top string, boom, A minor chord. Look at you go. So it's a great way to start. And then if you can get your camp songbook or anyone's songbook, I can send you a couple camp songs if you're interested. It's a great place to start. And so that you can sing at campfire or at talent show or those kinds of things, or even better, teach campers how to play.
All right. Mine's going to be pretty simple. You may have heard about it before, and if I pronounce it wrong, I apologize, but it's called the Pomodoro effect. This is kind of a way that you can study or work on things to make sure you stay focused, you don't get drained, you don't overexhaust yourself. A
Mhm.
really simple idea. You focus on something for 20, 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. It's that simple. And then you come back to it and you start all over again and you get back into it for another 20, 25 minutes. You work hard and
So
then you take a
good.
5-minute break. It's so important. And at first, when you start doing this, maybe set a stopwatch or a timer so that you can keep on time. And one of my favorite things during my 5-minute break that I will normally do is something called a walk and talk. So it's 2 pieces of advice for one. And that 5-minute walk is you and a buddy, socially distanced at this point in time, but maybe in the future a little bit closer. But you guys get to walk around and you can talk about something that's on subject, maybe off subject, but it's just a way for you guys to, or for you all to just kind of talk your mind off, get off subject for a little bit, get a little creative in your thought process, and then come back to what you needed to work on and get right back to it. So Pomodoro effect and a walk and talk. It's 2 for 1.
The Pomodoro effect, I've used it a lot and it is super, super awesome. The one thing, just to make sure that we don't forget to say, is that when in that work time, you turn off any distractions, close the door, get a glass of water so you have it, put your phone on airplane mode, or flip it over, or close your laptop if it's not computer related work, and focus for 20 minutes. Do not do anything else. And then use that 5 minutes for a walk and talk, for a bathroom break, refill your water, and then jump back into it. And then when you want to check your phone again, that is when you're done the number of Pomodoros you want to do. Don't check your phone in those 5 minutes if you can help it.
There you go. Well, those are our E.G.E.Ls for you, and we hope you've enjoyed the entire podcast today. If you did enjoy it, we would be so grateful if you left us a review wherever you are listening to this podcast. Your ratings and reviews not only tell us what you like and don't like about the show, but it helps boost our rankings and helps more people discover the show.
That's right. And remember, you can find our show notes that have all of the things we mentioned in the show at gocamp.pro/FCC, first class counselors. And at gocamp.pro/FCC, there's lots of great stuff. You can find other podcasts, our past show notes, and that will help you accomplish my goal of one piece of camp material every day in 2021.
Yeah, Matt, and if they want to get a hold of you for anything we talked about today or just camp stuff in general?
Yep, Matt at gocamp.pro. And you, Oliver?
If you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me at oliver.gregan.scd@gmail.com. Thank you guys all for joining us. And remember, camp is camp and camp's all good.